When a letter carrier is robbed, postal inspectors drop what they are doing and respond. Such was the case when a carrier was attacked by an armed robber in Newport News, Virginia. The robber forced the carrier to hand over her arrow key. Washington Division Postal Inspector Kevin Horn from the Norfolk domicile responded to the scene.
So arrow keys are used by the post office around the country. Arrow keys are prime targets by mail thieves.
The robber, later identified as Andre Billups Jr., fled with the key and used it with his partner, Johnny Riddick, to repeatedly steal mail in the area. Inspector Horn and his team began to monitor the area after numerous complaints about stolen mail. Adding agents from the ATF and the Newport News Police Department, the task force began to focus on the Hydenwood Post Office. The surveillance paid off. Billups and getaway driver Karen Omar Gary drove up to the collection box outside the Hydenwood Post Office. When he approached the collection box, a postal inspector and a Newport News police officer confronted him.
Billups jumped back up in the vehicle and he drove towards a postal inspector. The postal inspector used her service weapon, hitting Billups in the shoulder, and then the vehicle took off.
A high-speed chase ensued. Finally, in Gloucester County, law enforcement used stop sticks to disable the car. Gary was apprehended immediately. Billups fled on foot, but eventually surrendered after throwing away his handgun. A search of the vehicle turned up the stolen arrow key, Billups' rifle, ammunition, 2 magazines, and a cell phone. They also found a driver's license, debit cards, and checks with several other people's names. Riddick, Billups, and Alexis West have been engaging in check washing.
So essentially how check washing works is we have criminals that steal these checks from the mail, and essentially what they do is they use chemicals to basically take the ink off the check, and then they'll put a new payee on that check and raise the amount of the check and present it to the bank.
The mail thieves won't be spending any money from the counterfeit checks. Gary pled guilty to attempted theft of mail. He was sentenced in November to time served. West pled guilty to unlawful possession of postal keys and accessory after the fact and was sentenced to 6 months in prison. Riddick pled guilty to robbery and conspiracy to commit bank fraud. He was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. And Billups pled guilty to robbery and using a firearm in a crime of violence. Sentence, 7.5 years in prison. To report postal crime, call 877-876-2455 or visit uspis.gov